Hello and welcome to PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Hartitz, and today we continue our Fantasy Files series with a look at Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and PFF's single highest ranked backfield entering the 2021 season. I don't think there's all that much competition for that, role, to be honest with you. I mean, if you just look at what other backfield in the league could feasibly have two top 10 running backs, there really isn't one, in this, great ranking that Ben Lindsay put together on July 20th. You can find it at pff.com. If you like, Colts were number 2, Saints were number 3, Vikings 4, Cowboys 5. Yeah, Pollard, Madison, Nyheim Hines, Latavius Murray, those guys are all great, but we're not saying that any of them are legit top 10 backs in the league. Maybe some of you Tony Pollard hives really are, but in just as the Browns case, to have Hunt and Chubb, I don't think it's much of a conversation in terms of who has the best backfield in the league. And we do need to realize that this wasn't, just the Browns being so far ahead, being light years ahead of the rest of the league in terms of, player development or roster construction. They just got lucky to an extent. Nick Chubb, great at Georgia, but some of the knee injuries he had in college, there's a reason why he wasn't a first round pick. And then with Kareem Hunt, we saw what he was doing with the Chiefs, obviously had, the awful off the field issue that led to him being cut by the Chiefs, then being suspended. Now he's sitting there not able to get, the sort of long-term deal that his talents might warrant based on what we've seen him do. So Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, however they got there, they now form the league's single best backfield, and Cleveland should be happy that they don't even have to pay either player as a top 15 running back. So, both these guys, I think we all are aware of just how good they are, but just to put some of their numbers into context, Chubb, arguably the single best player in the league with the ball in his hands. PFF rushing grade since 2017, Chubb is second among 115 qualified backs. Yards per carry, he's tied for third. Yards after contact per carry, he is first. Missed tackles forced per attempt, he is also first. In those same categories, Kareem Hunt, 10th in PFF rushing grade, tied for 29th in yards per carry, tied for 12th in yards after contact per carry. Missed tackles forced per attempt, he comes in tied for third. So in all those, other than just yards per carry, which is the most fluky stat of the group, Hunt's still a top 12 back in a massive 115 sample size. But Chubb, like the only player that statistically we can match up to Nick Chubb is Derrick freaking Henry. So with that in mind, Nick Chubb, 2019 freaking tackle breaking champion in terms of just total force missed tackles. In 2020, certainly seemed like he could have been a repeat, qualifier if he didn't unfortunately have that injury against the Cowboys. Seriously, people, the Browns ran for over 300 yards against the Cowboys without Nick Chubb playing more. I think it was 14 snaps he only played in that entire game. If Nick Chubb hadn't gotten hurt against the Cowboys, he might still be running for more touchdowns. 400 yards might have been the floor for that performance. But with all that said, Nick Chubb, the alpha on the ground, but Kareem Hunt is the alpha through the air. And PFF receiving grade since 2017, Hunt comes in at 8th among 121 qualified backs. Chubb is tied for 80th. Yards per reception, Hunt is tied for 15th. Chubb is tied for 47th. Yards after the catch per reception is where Chubb takes the lead, 22nd versus 28th. But yards per out run, Hunt's 26th, Chubb is 97th. And drop rate, Hunt's been a little bit better, tied for 64th, Chubb tied for 71st. Chubb isn't like a Ronald Jones level of terrible receiving back. He had that awesome catch, I think as a rookie, where he actually mossed the Bengals dude for like a short 10-yard touchdown. Maybe it was just a gain. He's made great plays. He had the touchdown in the wild card game on a nice screen pass. Like, it's the same thing with Derrick Henry. Like, you don't look at their drop rates and see a player that you just can't throw the ball to. They're not Austin Eckler, they're not McCaffrey, and they're definitely not Kareem Hunt. But with Chubb, I wish they would do a better job. Just get him the ball in space, because we know once he has the damn ball in his hands, few guys are better. I'm not saying you need to split him out as a wide receiver. I'd love to see that with Kareem Hunt. But Nick Chubb, just get the guy a few more touches in space. Same thing with Derrick Henry. I get when you have, someone like Kareem Hunt, and, for Indy, like, why? When you have Nyheim Hines, you don't necessarily need to give Jonathan Taylor 50, 60 targets a year, but let's get more than, what Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb are typically seeing. And one way to do that the Browns experimented with last year was using Hunt as a true receiver. And he actually posted a position best 153.8 QB rating when he was targeted in the slot or out wide among a 35 back sample size. So Kareem, man, in some of those Ravens games particularly, we saw them get the snaps up a little bit. Still never had more than 8 snaps in a single game in the slot or out wide. So that was something that I wish they would have done a lot more often when Beckham was out. I'm guessing we're not going to see a ton of it this year. You know, we rarely see it throughout the league unless your name is Austin Eckler or Nyheim Hines. Just realize Hunt has that trick in his bag if it comes down to it. So everything from a usage standpoint leans to Nick Chubb. You know, based on what happened in 2021, we had 14 instances of both these guys being healthy. Again, we had Chubb getting injured, 14 snaps into the Browns week 4, went over the Cowboys, then missed the next 4 games. So we had basically Hunt playing at least a third of the offensive snaps in all 18 of their games, and just the 14 games together. In those 14 games together, Chubb had 464 snaps, Hunt had 416. Rush attempts was Chubb 221, Hunt 147. Targets was Chubb 27, Hunt 38. So Chubb is the lead back, the running back, y'all. But the split is pretty clear, particularly when we zoom in on some more situational football. Hunt, when it was a 2-minute drill, outsnapped Chubb 57-6. And again, this is only the games that they were together. I'm not giving Hunt a big boost for when Chubb was out. 57-6 in the 2-minute drill. 140-23 snap disparity on third downs between Hunt and Chubb. With that said, we do see Chubb take over on early downs. First and second downs, Chubb outsnapped Hunt 425-234. That's almost a 2-to-1 difference. And when the clock wasn't under 2 minutes, it was Chubb 445, Hunt 334. So, you know, ultimately Chubb, at least 15 combined targets and carries in all but one of his fully healthy games. And the time that didn't happen, I think, was that like 38-7 loss against the Steelers, where we just didn't see them keep their foot on the gas. The one game where Chubb didn't get a bunch of carries, they were getting blown out. And that's kind of what happened with Hunt when he happened to get his takeover in that 4-game stretch where Chubb was out. But it just wasn't as consistent throughout the year. Hunt actually failed to reach that 15 opportunity threshold in all but 5 of his 14 games with Chubb also on the field. So looking ahead to 2021, and, you know, the study that I've done a lot for these running backs, taking the PFF projections, adding, you know, multiplying, I should say, their targets by 1.61, which is the average expected fantasy point value over the past 10 years on any given target to a running back. Rush attempt, you multiply it by 0.6, and you basically get this expected projected fantasy opportunity score. Really need to come up with a better name for this. But anyway, based on the projections and just not, you know, including their own efficiency or the offensive line or even scoring upside, Chubb would be the RB18, Kareem Hunt only the RB29. So it's not the steepest falls we've seen, you know, when looking at ADP versus their projected expected opportunity. James Robinson takes that crown. Still not exactly the workload that we'd hope for, you know, drafting these guys as high as we might want to. So I will just say, and as someone that has been more against Jonathan Taylor than most throughout this offseason, someone that's been higher on Joe Mixon than most, so much of what I do comes down to volume, because we're just so much better at being able to predict volume than we are the efficiency that goes along with players. But there are exceptions to every rule, and I am comfortable taking Nick Chubb as a legit top 10 fantasy football running back, and Kareem Hunt inside of the top 24 as well. These guys are just that good. And when they get to come back behind PFF's first ever offensive line to finish the year ranked first in both run and pass blocking, coming into 2021 as PFF's number 1 ranked offensive line again, it's just hard to see them busting too hard. And, you know, I've made a cool chart tweeted out at Ian Hartitz over on Twitter, where basically, you know, I finally figured out how to make, I'm not great with R, but you guys see the, you know, advanced analytics charts where essentially they're just taking one variable on the x-axis, one variable on the y, scatter plotted out up and to the right, better players down to the left, worse players. I figured out how to get these going on with Excel a little bit. So I'm starting to get into the, you know, multi-variable game here on the fantasy football Twitter streets. But with that said, I charted every running back with, you know, over 300 carries since 2017, which is when Hunt entered the league, and I put yards after contact per carry rank on the x-axis, on the y-axis, and missed tackles forced per carry rank on the x-axis. Like, let's take the two things that seem to be most independent of a player's blocking, of a player's situation, and see who the best running backs are. And the top right is Nick Chubb, all alone by himself, but right alongside him, we have Kareem Hunt, Chris Carson, Marshawn Lynch, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs, Dalvin Cook, even shout out Devin Singletary, who's kind of the one exception of this group. But hey, Singletary's slippery. He had, go back and watch that Rams game from week 3 last year. I think you'll be impressed with what Singletary could do. Either way, this just, leads me to the conclusion that we know Chubb and Hunt are elite talents. We know their workload isn't quite elite, but everything else in this offense is also going to start with that E word that I'm using too much right now. So again, takes me right to the ranks. Nick Chubb is my RB9, Kareem Hunt my RB23. I'm okay sacrificing a little bit of volume when we have the best damn offensive line out there behind legit proven backs in a great offense. I mean, Taylor versus Chubb for me. We're looking at similar touches, but the Browns have such a better offense, and I'm just not quite as convinced. And, this is even before the Carson Wentz foot injury news. Like, it's always been an issue for me going from Rivers to Wentz and the potential touchdown opportunity, and even bigger, the potential for those targets to fall off. So Chubb is actually returning to a cushier situation. And again, the best part about these guys is that if an injury happens to either Hunt or Chubb, we are talking about league winning upside, people. Either one. And so, Chubb, someone that I'm basically taking as my number 2 back that doesn't have, his team's featured workload. I'm still taking McCaffrey's, Zeke's, Dalvin's, Kamara's, all these guys ahead of him, even Aaron Jones right there at RB7. But in terms of, the running backs that we don't expect to get volume, pass game volume, I would take Derrick Henry before Nick Chubb. And that's really it. I truly believe in terms of pure rushing ability, Nick Chubb is the best running back in the NFL. And it's a shame that we don't get to see more of him with the rock, but it's really not that bad, people. And when we add in, just again, not even arguably, I think the consensus league single best offensive line offense we're expecting to take a step forward in 2021, year 2 with Kevin Stefanski. And Nick Chubb is just one of these guys where I understand if he doesn't maybe have the same overall RB1 upside with the healthy Kareem Hunt as someone like, even a Joe Mixon and Najee Harris, someone that could potentially get 100 more touches than Nick Chubb. But you know what? In the first couple rounds of your fantasy drafts, you don't want to lose your draft in the first 3 rounds. And Nick Chubb might have one of the highest floors of any running back going in the top 12 because of his status as the complete bell cow of this offense. So last point is with Kareem Hunt. I've seen some people wonder if he's just like egregiously overpriced because of the small sample size we had without Chubb, and Hunt didn't exactly take over the fantasy world. Just wanted to go back through those 4 games and show that even though Hunt wasn't, completely balling out, again, no one's doubting Hunt is anything other than a great running back. So let's look at his snaps in the 4-game sample and see what maybe would happen in a larger stretch. In week 5, after Chubb got hurt, Hunt comes in, 20 carries, 3 receptions, 70% snap rate. That's awesome. Week 6, 13 carries, 2 catches, 53% snap rate. Oh, that's not good. What happened? It was a 31-point loss. The Browns starting offense was off the field just a few plays into the 4th quarter. Should also note that in this stretch, the reason why Hunt didn't exactly take over against the Cowboys when Chubb got hurt, because Hunt was injured throughout that week going into the game. That's why Dearness Johnson had a big game. And hopefully you listened to PFF Fantasy Football Podcast, where we told you after that week not to worry about Dearness Johnson on the waiver. It should go back to Kareem Hunt as he gets a little bit healthier. And we saw that happen in spades. Week 7, 18 carries, 3 catches, 90% snap rate. Week 8, 14 carries, 2 catches, 86% snap rate. And why do you only have 16 touches on an 86% snap rate? Because the Browns ran 47 total plays in one of their 3 horrific weather games. So really, out of his 4-game sample, we had 2 pretty large exceptions to what we should be expecting. One being a 31-point loss and the other being horrific weather that really, stymied, I'll work on that one, that just messed up the entire offense, that included Hunt, unfortunately. So Nick Chubb, RB9, Kareem Hunt, RB23, great running backs and a great offense with the potential for great opportunity. That's something I might be interested, Bob. So thank you, as always, for tuning in to PFF Fantasy Football Podcast, everybody. New episodes every single day. Invite you to head on over to Underdog Fans Underdog Fantasy. If you're trying to play some best ball contests out there, just have one go up on the PFF stream here last Thursday night with my guys Andrew Erickson, Nathan Yonke, and as always, Jared Evans. So you can check that out and use code PFF when you go to Underdog. Deposit $10 and you'll get a free PFF Edge annual subscription. That's promo code PFF. Draft now at Underdog Fantasy. Again, appreciate you guys always listening, and people, preseason football next Thursday. Let's go. Hall of Fame game. I can't wait. I've had enough of these, training camp, quote unquote, highlight videos. We got Justin Fields throwing a 5-yard out route to David Montgomery, and people are actually acting excited about it. It's football, so I'll take it over, some bullshit like baseball or basketball on the old timeline, but take a step back. And when you see me tweeting those videos, please know it is 100% irony, and I am just trying to be a dick on Twitter. So with that said, I'm Ian Hartitz. This has been the PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. And until next time, take care, everybody.